What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, as everybody knows, we talked about it the last couple of days, the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears are going to play against each other in their week one matchup in just a couple of days. And every single person surrounding this game, whether they be a fan, an NFL analyst, a coach, a player, they all have an idea of how they want the game to go. They all have their game plan for week one against the other team. And, everybody has their opinion on what they think their team needs to do in order to be effective and win in week one. And I obviously have my own opinions, which I wanted to share on the channel today. Now, in today's video, I will be going over my game plan for the Detroit Lions in week one, what I think they need to do to be successful in week one, what I think they need to do in order to beat the Chicago Bears, and just all around be successful and have an efficient and great game one. Now, before we do get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel, as it takes only 2 seconds out of your day and it helps me push this Detroit Lions content out to more Detroit Lions fans such as yourselves. So if you could do that, I would be greatly appreciative. But with all that being said, let's get into talking about my game plan for the Detroit Lions when it comes to week one. Now, quick disclaimer, I know Dose of Dion 2.0 did a very similar video to this. I have not seen that video. I'm not copying him. I had this idea myself, and I didn't want to watch his video, and I don't want to copy Dion, but, I thought this was kind of an interesting video idea, and I'm sure that we're not going to have exactly the same thing. So when you're done watching this video, make sure you go over and check out Dose of Dion 2.0. I'm sure if you're here, you've heard of Dion. He's, probably one of the biggest Lions YouTubers out there, much bigger than I am. Probably a better YouTuber than I am, if I'm being honest. So go check out his channel because he put out a very similar video to this, and I'm sure it's fantastic. I approached this as if I were the Detroit Lions head coach. If I were Matt Patricia, how would I want my coordinators preparing for this game when we face off against the Bears? Now, the first thing that I wanted to put emphasis on, and what I believe is the most important thing, is that the Detroit Lions need to get up early. They need to put 10, 14, maybe even 20 points on the board if possible early in the game. The first couple drives, the first quarter, they need to get up by 2+ scores early in the football game. Now, this is going to help Lions out in multiple ways. Obviously, if you are up, that's obviously a good thing. You're winning the football game. Obviously, if you're up, you're doing pretty good in the football game. Like, that's just an obvious one. But at the same time, that plays against the Bears' strengths. Now, the Bears' strength as a football team is their defense. They play a lot of defense. They rely on their defense to win them football games, and they rely on that defense to keep the opponent's score low so that the offense, who was not super productive last year, can doesn't have to do a whole lot. They don't have to be in a lot of shootouts. They don't have to, put up a ton of points. They don't have to put up 20, 30 points a game. If, the Chicago Bears can keep that score low, then the offense doesn't have to do as much, and the Bears can still be successful. Now, the Chicago Bears last year had 8 wins, and in only 2 of those wins did the opponent score over 20 points. So, obviously, the Bears defense was still very good last year if they only allowed 20 points in, if they had 8 wins, and only in 2 of those wins the opponent scored more than 20 points. Like, that's pretty impressive by the Chicago Bears defense. And if the Detroit Lions can get up early, if they can put on a couple scores really, really early, that plays against the Chicago Bears defense because, obviously we're scoring points against them, but then the Bears can't drain the clock and rely on that defense. They're going to have to rely on their offense more to put up more points, to put up, touchdowns instead of field goals. They're going to have to rely on their offense to be efficient and move the ball against this new Detroit Lions defense, and that plays against the strength of the Chicago Bears. And if we can play against their strengths, obviously that is going to be a good thing for the Lions to do. Another thing that does is that puts the ball in Mitch Trubisky's hands, and that is the next thing I wanted to talk about. Now, the one thing that I think the Detroit Lions need to do in this game is make Mitch Trubisky throw the football. Now, Mitch Trubisky is not a great quarterback. He's the worst quarterback in the NFC North right now. I think that's pretty much undisputed amongst NFL fans. Mitch Trubisky hasn't lived up to that number 2 selection. We'll just put it, we'll put it that way. Now, Mitch Trubisky is, he's not a great NFL quarterback. He's not a great thrower of the football. As last season, he only had a 63.2% completion percentage, threw for 3,182 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions while playing in 15 of the 16 games. Now, obviously, Mitch Trubisky is not a great thrower of the football, but Mitch Trubisky is a fairly solid athlete. He does do a pretty good job at extending drives with his legs, extending the plays with his legs legs, with his feet, and just kind of getting out of the pocket and being one of the more elusive quarterbacks in the NFL. And that is one of his strengths. He doesn't have a lot of strengths in the NFL, but one of them is extending plays and extending drives with his feet. As last season, Mitch Trubisky did have 48 rushes for 193 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns while averaging 4 yards an attempt. So we know he can scramble. We know he can evade pressure with his feet. We know he can get out of the pocket and move a little bit. So the Detroit Lions game plan on defense has to be contain Mitch Trubisky in the pocket and make him rely on his arm. Because if the Detroit Lions can take away the run game that's already missing their number one running back in David Montgomery, if they can get up early and put the ball in Mitch Trubisky's hands and make the game rely on Mitch Trubisky's arm more so than his legs and more so than the running backs and defense, I think the Detroit Lions have a great shot of winning this game, because I am more confident that the Detroit Lions' newly revamped defense can stop Mitch Trubisky's arm more so than I am confident that the Lions' offensive line can hold up against this Bears pass rush with Robert Quinn, Akeem Hicks, and Khalil Mack for 4 straight quarters, with Matthew Stafford dropping it back 40 plus times in a game. So if we can put pressure on Trubisky, if we can keep him in the pocket, if we can, put some pressure on him, make him make these tough throws, tight window throws, I think the Detroit Lions defense is going to look better. I think it's going to have a lot of success because, as I mentioned, Mitch Trubisky is an okay NFL quarterback, probably the worst in the NFC North right now, but he is not a great thrower. He relies a lot more on his athleticism and his feet more so than he does on his arm. Not so much that he relies on it more, but he relies on his feet a lot to extend plays. He relies on his feet a lot to get out of the pocket, and if a play breaks down, he tries to get out and make stuff happen. So if we can keep Trubisky in the pocket and make him make tough throws, tight window throws, I don't think Trubisky has the accuracy in order to be successful against that kind of defense, and I don't think Trubisky has the arm talent to throw for a lot of yards, to be super accurate under pressure, especially with all the talent we just added to the secondary. Now, the third thing that I wanted to mention, or the third part of the game plan that I think the Detroit Lions need to implement, is the fact that the Detroit Lions need to establish the run game. Now, the Detroit Lions have put a ton of emphasis, a ton of capital into this offensive line and the running back room. We brought in Adrian Peterson, we brought in DeAndre Swift, we brought in Bo Scarborough last year. We have a bunch of running backs on the practice squad. We spent we spent picks on offensive linemen in the draft that are good run blockers. We just paid Big V big money. We paid Taylor Decker big money. We put draft picks into Frank Ragnow, obviously, a couple years ago. So the Lions have been trying to build up this run game for a couple years now, and I think it is finally time that the Detroit Lions emerge as a top running team in the NFL. With all these great running backs in Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift and even Ty Johnson and Jamal Agnew that are running backs as well that could potentially see some carries, we have to rely on these running backs if we're going to put all these capital into it. If we're going to spend big money on run blocking tackles and we're going to spend high draft picks on, guards, run blocking guards and running backs, we have to use them. And I think that, rotating these guys around, rotating around Adrian Peterson and Kerryon and DeAndre Swift and even Ty Johnson a little bit if his ball carrier vision has improved throughout camp, rotating these guys around and really, just establishing the run early is going to be great for the Detroit Lions offense, because Matthew Stafford is like 10-2 with a 100-yard rusher in his NFL career. I mean, he is very efficient. He is a very good quarterback, and he has a really good record when the Detroit Lions have been able to run the football throughout his career. It hasn't happened a lot, but if the Detroit Lions can establish that run game, even if it's close to 100 yards a game from a single running back, and all these running backs are getting carries, and all these running backs are rotating and being healthy and catching this defense off guard, because all these running backs can do different things. DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson, they can all do different things really well. So if we're rotating all these running backs around, whether we're running the ball or throwing short passes as an extension of the run game, we have to keep this defense guessing with the run game. And, obviously the Chicago Bears have a great pass rush with Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks. So one of the best ways to counter an elite pass rush is by running the ball at them and not giving those pass rushers attempts to rush the passer, if that makes sense. If we do not give Khalil Mack opportunity to get to Matthew Stafford, that he's not going to be able to do it. If we only give him, if Matthew Stafford only passes 20 times in a game, that's not a whole lot of attempts for those pass rushers to get in a groove to, really hone in on Matthew Stafford and go get the quarterback. If we're running the ball, if we're mixing things up, if we're throwing short passes as an extension of the run game, if we're running the football efficiently, those pass rushers are not going to have as big of an impact on the game. And once again, that takes away from the Bears' strengths and applies to the Lions' strengths when it comes to, offensive and defensive efficiency. The final thing that I want to talk about, the final part of my game plan that I think the Detroit Lions need to implement in week 1, is that the Lions need to locate the rookie. Now, obviously, when I'm talking about the rookie, I'm talking about the Chicago Bears rookie cornerback, Jalen Johnson. Now, we know the Detroit Lions have a great receiving core with Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, Amendola, Hall, Cephas, Agnew. All these guys coming in, all these really big play weapons, great wide receivers down the field that just pick on veteran cornerbacks season in and season out. It's very tough to stop this Detroit Lions offense because they have all of these weapons that Matthew Stafford can use. Now, Jeff Okudah was the Lions' first draft pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. Jeff Okudah was the number 3 overall pick by the Lions. And, we expected him to come in and be a shutdown cornerback. And Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones made this dude look silly. I mean, Marvin Jones is catching one-handed snags on Jeff Okudah all throughout camp. And I don't think anybody is going to tell you that Jalen Johnson is a better cornerback than Jeff Okudah. At least coming out, he wasn't. I mean, Jeff Okudah was supposed to be this historic cornerback coming out, and I still think he will live up to that, but Jalen Johnson is not Jeff Okudah. And if Jeff Okudah is struggling against these wide receivers after 3 weeks of going against them and learning their tendencies and learning Matthew Stafford's tendencies and what he likes to do, how he likes to throw it, what makes these wide receivers comfortable and uncomfortable. If Jeff Okudah can't stop these wide receivers after 3 weeks of working with them, what makes the Bears fans think that, or what makes the Bears think that Jalen Johnson can stand up and stop Jeff Okudah, or that the Jalen Johnson can step up and stop Kenny Galladay and stop Marvin Jones when he hasn't seen them in the NFL yet? He has never played against them. And I know he's playing against Allen Robinson, but every wide receiver is different. Every wide receiver breaks differently. Every wide receiver, runs the routes a little differently, uses their hands a little differently. Some are more aggressive, some are less aggressive. It's just very different. So I know he's going against a great talent in Allen Robinson, but Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones are different animals than Allen Robinson. And I really think that if we see Jalen Johnson in man coverage versus Kenny Galladay, if we see him in man coverage or single coverage against Marvin Jones, we know where the football's going because I trust our veteran in Kenny Galladay, or, our top 10, arguably top 5 wide receiver in Kenny Galladay. One of the best number 2s, could be a wide receiver 1 on certain teams in the NFL in Marvin Jones. I trust these guys to go out and beat the second round rookie in Jalen Johnson. And if the Detroit Lions are passing, which I don't think they'll do a lot, I think they will rely more on the run game, but when they do inevitably pass, the Detroit Lions' first look, Matthew Stafford's first look when he comes out, he's going to be looking for Jalen Johnson. Locate the rookie. Who's he matched up on? Is it Kenny Galladay? Because if it is and it's single coverage, you know where the ball is going pre-snap. If it's Marvin Jones and it's single coverage, doesn't have any help over the top, you know where it's going. It's going right to Marvin Jones if he's being covered by Jalen Johnson. And we need to pick on the rookie because he's just at a disadvantage. Rookie DB is one of the toughest positions to transition into the NFL. And Jalen Johnson in week 1 is going up against 2 of the best wide receivers the NFL has to offer. So we need to find the rookie because I have a lot more confidence testing Jalen Johnson than I do Kyle Fuller, because Kyle Fuller has made us pay before. Jalen Johnson has not seen NFL experience yet, so we need to welcome him to the NFL with big plays against him, deep shots against him, make him, confuse the kid, make him feel uncomfortable against Kenny Galladay, be super physical with the rookie, and really just abuse the fact that he does not have NFL experience yet. Now, those were my 4 key points that I think the Detroit Lions need to follow in order for them to be successful in week 1 against the Chicago Bears. What do you guys think about my game plan? Do you think that it'll work if the Detroit Lions execute it properly, or do you think that it will not work and the Chicago Bears will be able to shut down some of these things that I have been talking about? Let me know that down in the comments down below. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. If you are new to the channel, as I said, consider taking those 2 seconds it does take out of your day to like the video and subscribe, as it does push the content out to more Detroit Lions fans. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see all of you tomorrow. If there is no Detroit Lions news, I will see you all tomorrow with more Detroit Lions content. But until then, that's all I got for you guys right now. Bye, guys.